In a world full of misery, rage, and insomnia, there's a place you can go to just unwind. All you have to do is take a long walk into the mountains, and just past the black house, the secret garden, you'll find a small cabin. Inside that cabin, you'll find the Hole in the Wall Book Club. So now that the dream catcher's hung and the fire started, we invite you to pull up a chair and join the Losers Club as we explore the world of officious little pricks and shining on. But I guess what's this shit? What's this shit? Hello and welcome to
You almost sound drunk.
Like the moment I start this show, I'm just like, well, let's pretend like I have a bag full of marbles in my mouth. I'm icy.
Right. And I'm Mark. Welcome back.
Hold on. You know what I'm missing for the shining introduction? This bottle of wine. There we go. Hello, and welcome to Hole in the Wall podcast. I'm Icy, and here's my best friend in the entire world, a man who has burnt down less than 6 putt-putt golf courses.
The infamous Mark.
Yeah. How you been, Mark? How you been?
It's a good thing that I've been, being responsible and staying inside because I'm trying to keep that number under 6.
Yeah.
Putt-putt's not going to like me, so.
You've never liked putt-putt.
Well,
that period where you made your feelings known.
Well, I don't want to say anything to,
Oh, don't get incriminated. I'm not going to edit this.
I don't want to be too controversial because who knows? Like Putt could be our future sponsor. I don't know, right?
Welcome to Hole in the Wall podcast, sponsored by the concept of putt-putt golfing.
Yeah.
Do you like golfing but want it to be smaller? Putt-putt. Let's do it. Yeah, shoot me an email. I am open to this.
Mm-hmm.
Big putt. Was that big putt? Okay, I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole.
If big corporate putt wants to contact us, we are available. Oh man.
God. Okay, what do we do here? We talk about the shining.
Yeah, I think we read books, right?
Right.
Okay.
Shit, did you actually read it?
We were supposed to do that?
Yeah. Okay, let's make some stuff up. Chapter 26, Dreamland. No, but this whole part was good. I apparently have a knack for ballpark choosing really dramatic stopping moments. Because I did it twice here.
Yeah, right. You pretty much nailed it. And I don't know if we want to do sort of just a recap of where exactly we stopped last time.
Go ahead.
But we stopped like exactly when Danny's in 217 and the old dead lady literally has her hands like around his neck, choking him. And then bam, chapter ends, episode ends, and here we are. And this starts actually a new part of the book, part 4.
Right.
Snowbound.
Snowbound, yeah. And we start in with chapter 26, Dreamland, where we check in on Jack, who has fallen asleep in the basement doing the basement research thing. And man, he and his dad had such a loving relationship. Like, it was, I can't really see why he has so much. No, even his dad's relationship is just like, oh, okay, you're modeling everything after this. Gotcha. It all makes sense now.
Yeah, right. And it is sort of crazy because, Jack, he knows all of these things. And again, it's not like he ever, I don't know if I've just forgotten, but it's not like he ever like connects those dots, Like I've seen this happen in my childhood. And then, I also broke my son's arm, who was like, again, he was like 3 at the time.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, this is not a short flashback, right? This is not
right.
This is a full like, hey, we're gonna tell you why Jack is pretty much the way he is.
Yep. We meet his dad, who used to be a nurse, and a drinker, and a violent drinker. But the first introduction we get to it is actually just how much Jack loved his dad. Like we see this game,
Yeah.
like Jack would play, like as a little kid, would play in the hallway, waiting for his dad to come home, knowing that every night his dad would come home reeking of alcohol, but so happy to see him and like do the game where he throws him up in the air. And sometimes he'd go too far and slam into the ground. It would hurt, but he loved his dad.
Yeah. What was it called? Elevator, right? I
Yeah.
forget the name, but
The exact same relationship we see with Danny and his dad.
yeah, right. And again, it's just it really is weird that he has these vivid memories. And again, he just never connects the dots, right? Like
Right.
and he continues to go along this path of, oh, why all these things are happening to me. I'm just so unlucky. Anyway, but that's not what this chapter is about, right? So yeah, I mean, him and his dad, I mean, they're playing elevator together. He's pretty rough with them because he's like slosh drunk pretty much all the time. Then we have a pretty defining moment happen in this chapter, right?
Yeah.
In the flashback. And I don't know if you want to sort of take this away or not.
Sure. We see the time where Jack's dad beat the shit out of his mom with a cane.
Mhm.
And like Jack very much focuses on like there was no provocation. His dad had like dozed off at the dining room table, woke up, flipped out, and just beat her across the face with a cane.
Yeah, wasn't it one of those things like he passed out and then she was just simply like, "How was your dinner?" or something? Like it was something so innocent.
Right.
Um and he just like wakes up and just like stares at her and then grabs his cane and literally beats her repeatedly over the head.
Right. And he said something that like didn't fit the situation. I'm trying to
Oh
remember
yeah.
what it
Oh, you're
was.
right. Oh man, you're
And
okay.
by remember what it was, I mean I'm flipping through the book while you talk and hoping no one would notice. So thanks for dropping the ball there.
Well, people know us by now. Okay, we're not perfect. And
Oh,
that's
there we go. It's he said something about coffee. To this day, Jack was sure it had been coffee that his father said. And then while he's beating the shit out of her with his cane, he was repeatedly yelling like, "Come on, take your medicine."
yes, which I'm sure we're never gonna hear that again.
Yep. 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 Yeah. And like after that, so like they called the doctor. His dad just lied about everything, said she fell down the steps.
Yeah.
Then Jack's brothers and sisters just started leaving. Like one of them joined the army. Like they just it broke the family apart on that moment.
Yeah,
It wasn't
she
holding on well to begin with.
right. She died, right?
Not in that. She
I couldn't remember. I remember like she just collapsed. She said some random thing. Oh, like uh, the last thing that she said was, "Who's got the newspaper? Your daddy wants the funnies. Is it raining yet?"
right. But yeah, no, she lived. And he eventually died of a stroke.
Hmm.
And I did notice something about his name. Did you notice something about his name?
What was his name?
His
This
name is Mark Anthony Torrance.
well, I mean, we share a lot in name. Me and him.
I'm just saying his middle name
Very
is
true.
Anthony and a shortening of Anthony.
Oh,
I'm wondering. I don't know if I couldn't see anything else to directly support a connection, but like the doctor said, like something like they think the name should be obvious, and I, as the reader, unless it's some weird time thing, have no fucking clue. And this is the first time we've seen anything that's vaguely connected.
I can't even imagine what else it could be. I mean, we were completely clueless about it anyway, right?
Right.
Like why his imaginary friend. But see, then again, well, hold on though, because that's weird too, right? Because Danny never did Danny know? No, his Danny never knew his grandfather, right?
No, no. There's a mention that like after Mark dies. I'm just gonna do it that way to make you uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's super weird.
After Mark dies, that rat bastard who set many a putt course on fire. No, but after he dies, like the rest of the family lives off insurance for a while and then runs out of money. apparently, like, he was the kind of guy who could, like, compulsively collect insurance. But
Mhm.
we all the rest of this, like, Jack then starts having these dreams about his kids and hearing his dad or his kid and his wife and hearing his dad on the radio telling him he's got to kill him. It's
Yep.
very direct.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no pulled punches here. And I can't remember sort of the context because it wasn't just flat out like, hey, you got to kill him. Like I think this sort of I thought the idea was sort of like, hey, they're in your way. Like
Yeah, there was this
if you really
appeal.
want to get your stuff done, like your play, I think, or maybe I don't really remember.
There was this
Um
appeal to, like, an artist has to suffer, and they're in
oh
your
yeah,
way
that's
to
right.
fulfilling your art. Yeah, and he's hearing this voice, like, rising up like, his dad's voice rising up shriller and shriller out of the radio and having this dream about going through the hotel, and, he comes out of his dream when he smashes the radio on the ground.
Yes. Which
Yep.
is at this point their absolute only way of communicating with the outside world.
Right.
The
They're snowed
phone,
in and have been for weeks now.
yeah.
So, this wakes up Wendy. Wendy, like, is in the room quickly after he smashes the radio. And yeah, that was our chapter there. That is another one of these things where it's just written really well. I felt just a rising, like, foreboding that turned into, like, a dull terror throughout. There's great pacing throughout this.
Yeah, there really is. And again, one thing that I do, and we've talked about this so many times, but Stephen King is delivering a very believable backstory.
Right.
Like, oh, do you want to know why Jack is like this? Well, here you go. And as a reader, you're reading that section and you're like, oh, this is heavy. This is hard to read. But it's realistic, it's believable, and again, it's just it makes Jack's character and all the other characters a lot more authentic, I think. So
Right. And there's also, like, the other reason this is here. It's that most of this book takes place in Colorado. So these flashback scenes really let him demonize Maine, which,
yeah,
is very important. So I'm not sure what came first, but it definitely serves a dual purpose to both, like, really just make Jack an understandable character and slowly lower the property values in Maine so Stephen King can buy it all. That's my other theory I'm working on.
which I don't know a lot about your other theories just yet because I think we're going to talk about a lot about those during Dreamcatcher, but
Oh, cannot wait.
I completely agree with you on this one. I mean, he pretty much over his entire sort of writing career. What is he up to now? Like 60 books or something
It's
crazy?
a lot.
I don't know. It's weird, and then you start throwing in novellas in there and all that stuff. But yeah, it's like it's
Alexa, how many books has Stephen King written?
she doesn't even know.
Apparently 58 novels. And then I stopped listening. Shut up. Alexa, stop. That was a lot of information, but 58 novels. And then a bunch of other words.
And yeah, he just pretty much like every single time he's like, yeah, whatever. Oh yeah, there's this big horrific thing in Maine. It lives in the house, or it lives in the sewer, or it lives everywhere. No matter where
In the
you go in
hearts of
Maine,
people living in Maine.
yeah,
It's in the
you
very
are
trees and stones. Maine is a cursed land.
right.
He's like, okay, so everyone in our neighborhood moved out. I bought this entire street, 40K.
Yeah,
Boom. Expanding.
his that was his only dream as a writer.
Yep. I just want to
So,
own Maine. And you know what?
yeah,
I support you, Stephen King.
right. You did it in the most creative, ingenious way possible. I love it. So
Congratulations. Uh but yeah, we jump from here to our next chapter is catatonic. I gotta say the naming convention for chapters kind of fell apart here. Like, we had such a good naming convention. It was like, where are we? In the bedroom. Oh, thank you. Thank you. But, like, we get one chapter was called It Was Her. Eh.
yeah, we're moving away from locations to concepts.
Yep. Yep. So catatonic is when both of these amazing parents realize, wait, where the shit's our kid? Basically. They realize that both
Hello.
Hey.
Yeah, my computer froze up there for a second.
Welcome back. Don't know where I lost you.
Pretty much as soon as I said we went from locations to concepts.
Cool. But yeah, Catatonic is basically these two awesome parents realizing, hey, where the fuck's our 5-year-old?
Yeah, and I think they have like a whole conversation first, right?
Yeah. Like they basically have both fallen asleep and realize it's the old classic, I thought he was with you. And they talk about it for a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I mean is understandable, right? I mean, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like they've been there a while. It's probably like as kid proof as an old ass hotel in the middle of the Rocky Mountains can be.
yeah. It is weird, like at 5, like I'm just trying to keep this into context for my own kids, sort of too. I don't know. Yeah, I guess after a while you would just get comfortable, right? Again, it's been weeks. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's tough. I've never
I
had
mean, I
to
guess
take
at this
care of
point,
my son in a large empty hotel. So
I mean, honestly, that sounds like a failing as a father.
yeah, pretty much.
You should probably fix that and give us back some credibility.
Yeah, I'll look for a nice hotel in the middle of nowhere called the Overlook. So
Excellent. Cool.
yeah, anyway, so they all wake up from this dream. Yeah, you're right. And at some point they realize that Danny is just standing there like on the stairs.
Yep.
Again, he's catatonic, right?
Wow.
Name of the
We did it.
name of the chapter. And he has these large hand bruises around his neck. And I mean, you already know. I mean, they're the only 3 people there. So you already know what Wendy thinks.
And she vocalizes that
Yes,
very
she
quickly.
does.
Like Jack runs forward, and before he can even get to Danny, because he's freaking out, Wendy has scooped Danny up and been like, nah, you monster, don't fucking touch my kid. I will kill you.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
immediately.
Which again, in all of that, and like Jack is super pissed about this, and he talks about this like internally a lot, and eventually he even straight up talks to Wendy about this too.
Right.
And who knows, maybe this is in a different chapter. I don't know. But basically he's to the point where he's like, well, I'm never really gonna live this down, am I? Like, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, dude, I mean, come on. You were drunk and you broke your 3-year-old's arm. I'm sorry if 2 years hasn't been enough to get you back to square one.
And
right?
also, like, your wife did just find you having sleepwalked up a flight of stairs or 2 and shattered a radio on the ground in a blind rage and said you had no idea how you got there.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And like Wendy responds to this by scooping up Danny and locking them in the bedroom and basically going through that thought process of like, I don't think Jack would hurt us on purpose, but he's snapping. Like he's losing his marbles and we have to get out before he goes to bed. Like she basically
is this where they locked him in? I don't think this was it, right?
she runs to the bedroom for a while and Jack goes down to
I can't remember. Okay.
Yeah, Jack goes down to well, we get a bit of his stuff in the next chapter. But yeah, and basically Wendy goes through the options of like, okay, realizes she just cannot get Danny down to Sidewinder on her own. She has to get Jack's help. She thinks that Jack is going a little bit crazy, but she decides that she has to trust him while he's awake, or else she has no chance anyway.
Yeah, that was the big thing, right? Like she is convinced that he is safe while he's awake.
Right.
Which is terrifying in itself, but it is what it is.
And it doesn't help that like right around the time she decides, okay, I'm gonna go find Jack and I'm gonna talk to him and I'm gonna get his help. She then hears him what sounds like drunkenly bellow singing down the grand hall. She's set it off to a bad tone.
Yeah, I mean, and Jack's been doing this, right? Like, I don't think I don't know if we passed this already, but I mean, Jack essentially like he's like pretend drinking. When was that?
It's the next chapter. It was her. The chapter 28. It
Oh,
starts
okay.
out, we see like what Jack's been doing while they've been locked in the bedroom.
Oh yeah, right. So we have the whole Wendy perspective in this chapter, and then we get sort of Jack's perspective, and then they sort of meet back together. So I don't know why my memory is so
It's all good.
fuddled about these two chapters, but anyway, so I mean, do we want to roll right into chapter
Yeah, that's all I
28?
had to say on that.
Yeah,
Just
me
kind of
too.
set up a little bit of plot there. Like, it's mainly Wendy thinking through stuff because Danny's just catatonic the whole time.
Yeah, but I think she is convinced that they have to leave.
Yep,
Like
absolutely.
that's not even a question at this point. Like she is convinced, like, no, we have to get out of here.
Yep.
Like this is too far. Then we go into It Was Her, and Jack goes down to what would be the bar, right? It's dry. There's no alcohol in there. Everything's covered in plastic, right? But Jack has a very interesting experience, right? Like, first of all, he swears. I think he sits down at the bar, and then he swears. I think actually, as he's approaching the bar, he like takes a quick glimpse, and he sees the bar is like full with liquor,
Right.
and he's like, "Whoa, wait a minute!" And then he
And
like
the whole
looks. Yeah, he
sorry.
like looks again, and it's like it's gone. Right.
And the whole time he's walking to the bar area, he's thinking to himself, like, if she's going to treat me like I'm an alcoholic and I'm still drinking, shouldn't I even at least be able to drink? Like, if it doesn't change the result, whether I drink or not, I wish I could at least just drink.
Yeah,
And then he starts seeing the alcohol.
again, this is just part of like Jack's sort of weakness, where everything is happening to him. He's always got bad luck, and when he does something like tries to get better, he has like the worst mentality about it, which is, okay, well, I'm trying, so now I'm owed things,
Right.
which is essentially like his entire sort of thing. And then yeah, we get here, and he's like, well, I can't do this anymore. If I'm going to be accused of being an alcoholic, then I'm just going to drink.
Right.
So, and I'm just like, all right.
And then he sits down at that definitely dry bar. And Jesus, this whole chapter was Jack is just fully being shown a whole nother world at this point.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. And well, what's interesting about it is I think he even said, he realizes that the bar is completely dry, and he's like, okay, I just imagine that. But I think he was like, but I do legitimately smell beer.
Yep. And he tries
And
to write it off as like the beer that soaks into the wood, but he's like, but it smells fresh.
right. And I think Jack would know.
Right.
This is something he's
Got a feeling.
pretty knowledgeable about. And then yeah, he goes through these weird feelings where like all of a sudden he feels like there's the room is packed, right? Like the room is full of people. So he like feels like he's being watched. So he like quickly turns around, and of course like the room is empty. And then he proceeds to basically have an entire make believe conversation with a bartender. And I can't stress this enough. This is not a hallucination he's having, like
Right.
what everything else probably is, or with the hotel.
Right.
No, this is something he's just doing himself to like get him jazzed in the bar mood, I guess.
Like it's written in a very distinct style. Like, because he calls the bartender Lloyd, and we get like standard quotations around everything he says to Lloyd, but Lloyd is always just actions. Like, and I thought they had 7-Elevens on the fucking moon. Lloyd sympathized.
Yeah, right.
It's just
Exactly.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really unique, and I think he told Lloyd to like line him up, like what? It was something crazy, right? Like 21 shots or something, or maybe
It was
10 or 16. I don't remember.
it was martinis.
It was
20 martinis, one for every
20.
month he was dry and one for good luck. Yep.
So again, just a super healthy perspective from Jack here, and then he actually proceeds to pretend drink every single one.
Yep. Let's see. He curled his hand around the first drink, carried his fist to his mouth, which was open, and turned his fist up. He swallowed and then tossed the imaginary glass over his shoulder. Yep.
He's
And
in.
then he starts like imagining the judgment of the imaginary people at the bar watching him drink that much and deciding fuck them, fuck those imaginary people. I'll drink as many imaginary martinis as I want.
Right.
He
He's
is
really
in a fucking place.
right.
Mm.
All right. So, I mean, yeah. I mean, that was it. I mean, well, in a moment, because there's like
yeah.
another big part to this. But as far as him being in his own world at the bar, I think.
Yeah.
I think
it ends with him snapping, like yelling at everyone to leave him, and then they just do. The thoughts are gone, and that's when he starts drunk scream singing, and the chapters line up.
right, and I think this is to the point where Wendy brings Danny to find Jack, and they find him in there.
And we get a plot twist.
It's
basically
really huge plot twist.
Yeah. It's basically at some point, fairly quick into this, Danny like, comes out of it a little bit. And he's like, they ask, who did this to you? And he says, it was her. And fucking Jack is just like, oh, I'm sorry. Did you think that I choked our child? Because that doesn't sound like. And he immediately thinks to himself, he's like, no, it wasn't Wendy. Wendy would never fucking hurt Danny. There's no goddamn way. But this feels good.
Yeah, he was very like on that train, which again, he see again, if he had the ability to analyze his own feelings, well, I know that Wendy would never hurt him. So immediately I'm not even going to think about it. If he could somehow trap that thought and keep that in perspective about what he did to Danny and why Wendy has such a hard time trusting him, then maybe he wouldn't have. Anyway.
Yep. So I don't know. I feel like the next little bit kind of all blends together a little bit for me. But like between this chapter and the next, they all just have a talk about what happened, and honestly a pretty frank discussion about The Shining. Like,
yeah, I thought this was the most sort of yeah, I think we can just sort of, it blends together for me as well. I mean, and the reason why is because this is chapter 28, it was her. He says it was her. They have some dialogue. The next chapter, chapter 29, kitchen talk. It's literally them just walking from that area to like the next into the kitchen to have this talk.
yeah, I think Stephen King was like, oh shit, I didn't tell them what room they were in. New chapter, kitchen. They're in the kitchen now. Continue conversation, y'all. Pretend like we never changed scene.
Yeah, right. And yeah, they have a very interesting talk about The Shining and all of these things. And I don't really remember. I think this is where Danny comes out with, how he knew like Dick Halloran's name and how they could like talk like just using their minds, and the talk that they had in the car. I think he reveals all of those things during this kitchen talk.
Yep. He also touches on that, like, he thinks the hotel is bad and that he's like, he wants his dad to be happy, but also it's bad for him. Like, they hit on their fears about the hotel, and Wendy very like directly is like, we need to leave. Like,
Yeah.
Something hurt him, supernatural or otherwise. Someone's here. That's not good.
Right. And that's, I think, when Danny starts getting to the point where he sort of comes back around and starts talking about 217.
Right.
Yeah,
we get the whole, here's what went down. And Jack seems incredibly concerned until the moment he walks out of that room. Because by the end of this, he goes to 217 to check it out. And wow, his level of concern completely changes the moment he can't see his family.
Yeah, it's really like I got that too. And I just didn't know if it was just me or
no, it was night and day. Like in there, like he was very much like, there's either everything he's saying is true and we should find a way to leave. Like we can't right now. I broke the radio. Like, if we try to make this walk, we'll die.
Yep.
And at this point, no one remembers the snowmobile. I was a little annoyed, but it becomes a plot point near the end of this when one of them's like, "Oh my god, the snowmobile!" So they just haven't remembered it yet.
Which I will say, I'll give them a little bit of credit, not a whole lot, but I'll give them a little bit of credit. Is they do actually talk about why they may have completely forgotten about it too. So,
Yeah,
but anyway, let's say that that's a whole
yeah.
conversation as well, because there's a lot of nuance to that, I think.
So like he's basically admitting like there's either someone in the house that hurt my kid, or there's something supernatural that hurt my kid. We got to figure out a way to get out of this. But then
Right.
he goes to check out 217, and his attitude changes. It goes from like him looking around, being like, "There's nothing here. There's nothing here. My kid's a liar. There's probably psychosomatic bruises and scars on his neck. He thought he worried those into like, I mean,
Oh, and this is crazy too, because Jack. Well, first of all, Danny does reveal when Jack leaves to Wendy. He's like, yeah, well, he doesn't have the shine, so he's not going to see anything. Right? I mean, he
Right.
just straight up said, he's like, well, he's not going to see anything. But that doesn't happen. Jack
Right.
actually does have an experience in 217, and this is the crazy thing. He just immediately writes it off.
Yep.
Immediately, like, oh, I'm just whatever. I'm just imagining it. No, but
It's
which is
it's just the
crazy.
stress. Just like the time I saw those hedge animals move, it wasn't real. Therefore, I don't have to worry about it. It's fine.
Right. Even though your son literally just said that something happened in that room and he got choked out, he's me like, well, just whatever.
Lying little shit.
Yeah, right. It's
It couldn't
so
have been
insane.
that decaying woman. Her hands are far too small. That kid lied.
Yeah, that's just silly talk.
Yeah, and then he comes back and tells Wendy that there was nothing there. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, we kind of messed up the chapters here. So when he goes to 217, that actually ends that chapter, and we start chapter 30, which is revisited, and that's his actual in 217 experience.
Right.
But again, it's just so strange. He does actually I don't think he actually saw her, right? But he smelled the fresh soap. He says, "Hey, the bath mat is out."
Mhm.
And like all of these are put away, but he's like, they probably just forgot, which to be fair, that's completely logical. It's a bath mat. That's
And I
kind of easy
think
to forget.
wasn't there a point at which he like opened the curtains and when he turned back they were closed again or something? I think there was something with the curtains changing position.
Yeah, I believe that's right. But and again, even though everything that just happened, he's already convinced himself that there's nothing there. And even though he goes up there and weird shit starts to go down, he's like, well, there's nothing here. And again, to be fair, I don't know if this is just a byproduct of the fact that it's hard for a person in their mid 30s to accept the fact that there's a murderous ghost in a hotel room. I mean, we know as readers, we know we're reading a supernatural book. But if you put yourself in that situation, the logical, I think, mind would try to find every possible reason to explain something away.
That's like I do want to point out during the Danny conversation, Danny mentioned that Halloran said there was something fucked up about the hedge animals. And Jack was very much like, well, I don't think that's right. Haven't seen anything weird over there at all.
Yeah, and
So
he's
this is
still
very active denial.
oh, it definitely is, but I don't know if it's sort of a defensive mechanism in his mind, or he's just actively being like, I don't know, an asshole.
Yeah,
I don't know. So I just don't know the place where that denial really comes from, I think.
that's true. But I know where it leads. And by the end of this, him checking out this place, it leads to him being pretty certain his kid had faked injuries and the whole thing to get out of getting in trouble for stealing the passkey.
That's right. All right. So The next chapter, chapter 31 is pretty short. It's just the verdict.
Yep.
This chapter was literally half of a page. So when I say it was pretty short, it's half of a page. And it's just Jack coming back, and he's like, "Yep, checked out the room. There's nothing there." And then the page pretty much ends with Jack thinking like, "I've never wanted a drink so bad than I do right now."
Yep. Which is a thing he says a lot.
Yeah, right. I mean, you can see it.
It creeps.
Yeah.
Creeps.
Right.
And this next chapter, I gotta admit, made me a little bit uncomfortable.
It's actually interesting because there's multiple times in this chapter where I could see that happening. So I'm very curious to see what exactly was the weird thing, because there's no shortage.
Oh, it's most of it. I think it might be so. Okay, this is our last chapter of this section. The bedroom. I bet you can't guess.
It happens in the car.
You did it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm just joshing you in the bedroom.
Yeah, but like, so at this point, Wendy's kind of under the assumption that there is either a ghost or some random vagabonds that likes to strangle kids running around in the hotel. And they're all just going to bed for the night. Like, I get that at this point they don't have a solution. They haven't thought of a way out.
Right.
But I don't know. It might just be me. But if I thought I was in a house full of child murdering ghosts or child strangling vagabonds, I probably wouldn't be fucking.
Well, I mean, this is where the weirdness starts with this chapter. Because Wendy's having this conversation, and like Jack is just like, it sounds even weird talking about it. But Wendy's trying to have this conversation about saving their son, and like Jack is just like playing with her boob. Like,
yep.
There's like 5 minutes where you get like Wendy saying serious, 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 and then you get like 2 lines of like, oh, and then like Jack's like playing with her boob, and you're like,
it's like, okay, Jack, did you sharpen all the knives in case we have to stab someone to death to save our child? And Jack licked her nipple. Just flicked it with his tongue. Like,
I mean, to be fair, and I hope no one thinks less of me, there's a part of me that was like, all right, well, Jack's already convinced that his son did this to himself, and now he's just trying to blow off some steam. Like, he's already in like, hey, kid's asleep. He did it to himself. It's it's adult time now.
I mean, and in fairness, with Danny like crashed out in the bed, I think in the same room, and his like shining connection to the happiness of his parents, he is sleeping better when they're fucking.
Yeah, he is. And I think there's a point. I don't even know if we want to get to that just yet.
I don't know.
But they do have the talk though, right? They do have this talk, and this is when Wendy lays it all out on the line. She's like, "Nope, we have to leave." And Jack is pretty much like, first of all, he is furious. I mean, he is like I can't even put it into words because I've already said he's been furious like in other times.
Right.
This is like he's creeping to a whole new level. Like his internal boiler is.
We did it.
Right. And it's crazy. I mean, and it also is interesting. Like, he comes up with every excuse in the book to why they can't leave. But also, I would say this. His reasons for that are not sound. But from a very logical perspective, again, their son is 5. And the hike is like 3 days.
Yeah.
And if this was an easy hike, people would do it all the time. It would be no big deal. But it's a hike that they've never done. The conditions are abysmal. And it's a 3-day hike with a 5-year-old. And
Wendy is so shitty at snowshoeing that she has to stay back or she'll die.
Oh, yeah, that was too. They're like, well, you're bad at snowshoeing, so you're just going to have to stay in the hotel.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Hope it's a ghost and not a person.
Yeah, right. But again, I actually felt like his motivations were not in the right spot. I mean, you see how angry he is. He's furious at this. He doesn't want to hear it. But the words that he is saying make a ton of sense. I don't know if I would make that decision either. I think I would be more on board with like, maybe we just need to hunker down and like watch each other better and not leave anyone out of our sight, because we're probably not going to make that hike.
And he basically proposes that the like forest ranger will check on them if they haven't heard from him by radio eventually.
Which was interesting because I don't think that has ever been brought up as a concept.
Nope. And I can't tell if that's something Stephen King didn't write that they would occasionally communicate, or if this is just Jack saying anything he can to settle her down.
Right. I thought the same thing because I was like, I don't know if Jack's just making this shit up.
Right.
There's never been any talk. I was under the impression that radio was literally just for emergencies.
That was the vibe I got to.
Yeah, there was no precedent for that. Anyway, but then eventually they bring up. This is where they bring up the snowmobile, right?
Yep.
And this is when they're like, "Holy shit, we have a snowmobile!" And again,
get my nipple out your mouth, Jack. We got to talk about this snowmobile.
Right. And again, they seem like cut down their trip to like one day.
Right.
And again, I think a lot of us, knowing where the book is going, are like, oh yeah, this is your ticket out of here. But again, just looking at it from a logical perspective, and Jack says this is not coming from the right place, but he says it. He's like, the hotel is not it's not open during the winter, so the maintenance on this thing is probably garbage. Like, they have no reason to upkeep this thing at all. He's like, I've never rode one. And then I think they worried about gas and oil and stuff, and then they remember that they could get it from like the garage.
It's Wendy who points out that they can get it. It's Jack raising objections and Wendy trying to shoot them down.
Right. And some of them are easy, like the gas thing. But again, Jack has a really good point here. Like, you want me to take our 5-year-old son on a treacherous trip on a machine that I've never used? And still, they even said, this isn't like an hour trek. This is, again, they said it would still take all day.
Right.
And it's a 3-day hike. So if it breaks down, you're still looking at a 3-day hike. And I'm guessing since they have like multiple feet of snowfall, what are we talking the temperature is? In the high mountains of Colorado? You're talking like sub-zero temperatures probably.
Yeah.
But again, I kind of, even though I know that he doesn't actually care. Like, everything he says makes sense. I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't know if I would do that either.
All right, you heard it here first. Mark is 100% pro Jack.
Right. I don't know if I'd go that far.
Oh, I'll add it to make sure you do.
Although I have been giving Jack a lot of credit this chapter.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah. But I don't know. This like part of it kind of ends with Jack being like, okay, well, I'll check it tomorrow. Like, we've all had a rough night. Let's sleep. We'll look at the snowmobile tomorrow.
Well, and he does have an interesting thought though, and I think it happens after Wendy falls asleep.
Yep.
And I don't remember exactly the words that he used. But it was pretty much like, I'm ready to kill this one.
His last fall, it's like as he's fallen asleep, his last thought followed him down like a sounding bell. It seemed that he might be able to find peace here at last, if they would only let him.
I thought he had much more of a raw thought, like.
Well, he wakes up from
like actually killing her, like pretty explicit.
Oh yeah, he gets that injection thoughts, like that thing Stephen King does, where it's like in parentheses. He actually just gets kill her, which is I think to echo what his dad was saying in the radio.
Yeah, but I think that's a big thing because it's just seeping into his like core persona, I guess.
Yep,
I would say. And then he goes to sleep, and then we just sort of go to the next part of this chapter. Again, this is a very long chapter, and the next part is a dream. And the only reason why I can sort of theorize why this wasn't its own chapter is because we're back to locations for the chapter names.
And he
so
hasn't left that bedroom.
Right, he's still in the dream. So
Thank
we're
you,
still in
Stephen
the
King,
second
for some
chapter.
consistency.
Yeah,
We appreciate it here at Hole in the Wall Book Club.
yes, we do.
And I know that's who you were thinking of when you wrote this book.
Yes. Hole in the Wall, not sponsored by Big Putt Putt.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. We're staying.
You know what?
hopeful.
We're even open to sponsorships from Little Putt Putt. Are you a single putt putt course in like fucking fuck off Ohio? You
Give
can
us a ring.
sponsor us. Yeah. I'm not gonna come, but talk about you.
Yeah, we'll Zoom call. Okay.
But yeah, he has a dream of George Hatfield, dead George Hatfield, with a knife sticking straight through his chest.
Yes.
Like,
But the location's important,
yep.
right? So he has a dream about George Hatfield in 217.
Yep.
So that is where this is taking place. And again, I don't know. Do you want to sort of go over what happens here, or
I mean,
a lot does.
yeah. I just want to read one more thing directly from the book, then you can take over the synopsis here. I just need the world to hear. George's eyes were closed. His penis floated limply, like kelp.
Yeah, again, there's
Just needed to let that out.
He's basically imagining George in the same sort of lifeless position that the old sort of dead lady was in. And again, this isn't really real per se, because again, in real life, George Hatfield's not dead.
Right.
But he is in this dream.
He's spilling some fucking tea.
Oh yeah. So there's a few things here. Him and Jack essentially get into a fucking argument.
Yep.
Basically. And he is adamant. I do not stutter. And he starts with a ticker, actually.
You set the timer ahead, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, you set the timer ahead. And Jack, like, line after line after line, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. And then he's like, it was for your own good. And you're like, wait, what?
Yep.
And then you're like, and then he kind of backtracks a little bit, I think. And he's like, even if I did do it, it was for your own good or something. I think.
And I know you cheated on your finals. He tosses that out. And I want to point out a line that that George says. First, you tried to run me over on my bike, and then you set the timer ahead, and then you tried to stab me to death, but I still don't stutter.
Ooh.
And that line, remember when one of the things we had hanging was George saying, "You hate me because I know."
Yes.
I'm saying things are clicking there.
So are we theorizing here that the bike was actually George?
Maybe. I don't know. I'm saying that, like, if this whole thing could follow and, like, oh wait, that was after that, wasn't? No, it wasn't.
This is when this is when Jack actually attacked him. He was actually on his bike, wasn't he?
No, that was when he was slashing the tires. This is when George attacked. Sorry, when Jack attacked George when he was slashing his tires.
Okay.
The bike thing happened first because that's when he quit drinking, and he was sober when he attacked George.
Okay, so maybe I have something in the timeline wrong, because I mean that's the only other reference to a bike that we have.
Right.
Was when he quit drinking.
Yep. So I'm not sure on this, but
there's so much mystery there. Like, where did he go? Right? Like, why didn't he say anything?
We've only gotten that from Jack's perspective, and we're just learning more and more that Jack just isn't reliable at all.
His perspective really isn't great. Okay.
Yep.
All right, and then we cover this cheating thing. The stutter seems pretty adamant. Or George Hatfield is pretty adamant that he does not have a stutter.
Yep.
And to be fair, we haven't seen any evidence in the book at all to suggest that he does. Like, in none of these like flashbacks or dreams or anything, he doesn't have one. I'm not saying that he doesn't, because again, there was like one little line, like when they were talking about this history, where they were essentially like, well, the rest of the debate team understood him getting pulled off, and he was great at prep. So that would sort of make you.
We've only gotten that from Jack's perspective.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So, and it's throughout, like, we saw these small warpings of what he was telling us, but now we're getting more and more that just so much of what he says is just unreliable completely.
And then, so eventually they get into like a scuffle. They get into a fight. And then I think initially, what does Jack have in his hand initially?
It's the timer connected to like a stick of dynamite, and it turns into his dad's cane, I think.
Oh yeah, it's like this weird thing. I was like, I had to reread that like
it was a whole
2 times. I was like, wait, what? Is this some like Looney Tunes stuff going on right
here?
here?
It felt like it. Yeah, it was a weird image. But then he beats the shit out of George with the cane, and I think George's face turns into his kid's face.
Yeah, and slowly, so slowly that image changes, and George Hatfield turns into Danny, and the cane turns into basically the mallet.
The roque mallet, yeah.
Yep.
I think that ends with him like waking up and going down to let steam off the boiler.
Yeah,
because it creeps. It creeps.
I heard a rumor about that.
Yeah,
a little rumor. Yeah.
And then our next chapter is called "The Snowmobile," which we haven't read yet, but I think something's gonna happen to that snowmobile. Just a feeling.
So what chapters are we reading for the next section?
Next episode, we will be reading chapter 33 through 37. So it'll be the rest of this part.
Okay.
Yeah. We're coming into home stretch because we're gonna have that one and then a couple more episodes after that. This season.
Awesome.
I have to ask you now, since we have to build your Stan survival team. Do you have someone you want to pick from Salem's Lot or Carrie? You're gonna eventually have to pick one from each to catch up.
You know what? You did ask me about that, and I told you I'd have my survival team ready to go. But
if you don't have one yet, we'll do next one. Like, how about end of next episode, you pick one or the other, and then the episode after, you pick your next. We'll rebuild your team.
Yeah, because I need to go back and review. I mean, Salem's Lot I read. I mean, a very long time ago, and I actually never read Carrie, but I did listen to the recap from this show before I joined it. So I feel like I have a pretty good idea.
You've heard about the good bits.
Yeah, right. Anyway, so yeah, let's do that. I'll have my first one ready by next episode.
Sounds good. As a reminder, I obviously took local heartthrob Tommy Ross, and then Weasel Craig. I still regret that decision, but he's on my team. We did it. So I don't remember how this show ends. I feel like this happens.
We never do.
I was gonna say almost every time, but it's literally every time. The times it sounds like we ended it well, it's because I edited it.
Yeah.
Right. I sometimes get a burst of energy right near the end.
Yeah.
I guess I've been relentlessly good at denial of my situation, and you've read the book. You know what? So this is sweet. How should we end this show?
Yeah, right.
Oh, we turn the page to a new chapter. Chapter the outro.
Hole in the Wall Book Club is a part of the Icynewyear Productions Network, and produced and edited by Anthony Sheets. The music in this episode is Supernatural Radio by Kevin MacLeod. There'll be a link to his license and website in the show notes. If you want to get a hold of us, tweet us at Icynewyear, or send an email to icynewyear@gmail.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to tell a friend, or leave us a review on your podcatcher of choice. Word of mouth and 5-star reviews really help us get out in front of more people, and let us expand and do more things. More information on the show can be found on icynewyear.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.